She stormed across the snow at 6:03 in the morning and waved her phone in my face. "Turn it off! I'm calling the cops!" The sound of my snowblower was loud, yeah, but it was my driveway, my house, my snow. I killed the engine anyway and just looked at her while cold air burned in my lungs. She didn't even wait. She dialed 911 and said, "He's violating HOA quiet hours and disturbing the neighborhood." Quiet hours at 6 in the morning, after 12 inches of snow fell overnight. I wiped my gloves on my coat and said, "Calm, Linda, the city says snow has to be cleared before 8. School buses use this road." She smiled like she had already won. "This isn't a city road. This is a private HOA lane," and the board voted. No loud machinery before 8 a.m. That vote wasn't legal, I said. Her smile dropped for half a second. Then it came back tighter. "You don't get a vote. You're not a full member." That part was true. I wasn't part of their little HOA club. My house sat at the end of the lane, the original farmhouse, built before the subdivision ever existed. When they built their big new homes, they needed access to the main road. The only way out? Across the strip of land that runs along my property line. An easement. They use it every day. Mail trucks, Amazon vans, school buses. Every single one of them drives across that 30-foot strip that belongs to me, but Linda liked to pretend it was hers. The patrol car showed up faster than I expected, tires crunching on fresh snow. The officer stepped out, looked tired already. "What's going on?" Linda rushed over like she was reporting a crime in progress. "He refuses to follow HOA rules. We've had complaints. He's creating a public disturbance." The officer looked at me. I pointed to the snow piled up behind my truck. "I'm clearing my driveway. City ordinance says sidewalks and access lanes have to be passable." Linda snapped. "This is a private lane!" The officer paused. "Is it?" She blinked. "Yes, it's HOA maintained." Two walked back toward my garage slowly. "Maintained doesn't mean owned." She turned red. "You don't control this road." I didn't argue. I just pulled a folded document from inside my coat pocket. I always keep it there in winter. Learned that lesson last year when she tried to fine me for parking my own trailer near the fence. I handed it to the officer. He read it once, then again. "This says you own parcel 7B, including the access strip." Linda laughed too loud. "That's outdated." The officer checked the date. "Filed 3 years ago." County stamped. Her jaw tightened. "The HOA has an easement." I nodded. "For access, not control." The officer looked between us. "Ma'am, he can clear snow on his property." She crossed her arms. "Not at 6 a.m. we voted." I looked straight at her. "You voted on land that isn't yours." For a second, no one spoke. Snow drifted off the trees. A neighbor's front door cracked open across the lane. Then Linda said something she probably thought sounded smart. "Fine. If you want to play technical games, we'll play." That was the moment I knew she was about to make a mistake. The officer warned us both to work it out like adults and drove off. Linda didn't move. She stood there staring at the cleared path I had just made. Clean, wide, safe. "You think you're clever," she said quietly. "You're not part of this community." "I never asked to be." "You benefit from our road." I almost smiled. "Your road?" She stepped closer. "If you won't follow HOA rules, maybe we revisit access rights." There it was. The threat. I watched her boots sink into the snow covering that same access. Strip her entire neighborhood depends on. Every house behind mine uses it. Without it, they don't reach the main street. No garbage pickup. No school buses. No emergency vehicles. She must have forgotten one small detail. The easement agreement has conditions, and one of them says the HOA must provide reasonable cooperation with the landowner. Last year, she fined me for my fence height, tried to block a repair truck from crossing, sent fake violation letters with my name spelled wrong. I kept records of everything. Every email, every notice taped to my door at midnight. I looked at her and said, very calm, "You sure you want to revisit access rights?" She didn't answer that. Instead, she pointed at my snowblower. "If I hear that again before 8, I'll fine you $500. "You don't have authority over me." "We'll see." She turned and marched back down the lane. The snow I cleared made her walk easy. Funny how that works. I restarted the snowblower. Not because I needed to, but because the rest of the lane The part that sits fully inside my parcel before their subdivision begins was still buried. And technically, that section isn't covered by their easement. By noon, the sun came out. Snow started melting just enough to turn the untouched section into thick slush. Cars leaving for work got stuck halfway down, tires spinning, engines whining. I stood at the edge of my driveway and watched as 3 neighbors struggled to push a sedan free. Linda came running again, this time not smiling. "What did you do?" I kept my hands in my pockets. "Nothing." "You stopped clearing the lane." "I cleared my driveway. You know the buses use this." I tilted my head. "This is private land." Her face changed then. Not anger, worry. Behind her, another SUV tried to pass and slid sideways, blocking the entire exit. The only clean, clear path? The part I cleared. My driveway. My side. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Clear the rest." I shook my head slowly. "According to you, I can't operate loud machinery before 8. "It's past 8. "Yeah," I said. "But now I'm not feeling cooperative." Her eyes widened. "You wouldn't dare." I looked past her at the growing line of trapped cars. "You said we should revisit access rights." The wind picked up, blowing snow across the untouched strip. And for the first time since she moved into her big corner house 3 years ago, Linda realized something. They weren't controlling me. They were depending on me. By 8:30, the entire lane looked like a parking lot. Cars angled sideways. One minivan half buried in gray slush. A delivery truck stuck at the curve. Driver standing outside with his hands on his hips. Engines kept revving, but nobody was moving. Linda's phone was glued to her ear. "No, you don't understand," she snapped. "The access road is blocked." She turned and glared at me like this was my fault. "Yes, it's his section." I leaned against my mailbox and watched the show. One of the neighbors, Mark from the blue house, walked over carefully. "Hey, can you just clear it? My wife has a shift at the hospital." I looked at him, not unkind. "I cleared my driveway. The rest of that strip is still my property." He lowered his voice. "Come on, man. Don't make this bigger than it is," I almost laughed. "Bigger?" Linda stomped toward us. "Don't beg him. He's doing this on purpose." I raised an eyebrow. "Doing what?" "You're holding the neighborhood hostage." "No," I said calmly. "I'm following HOA rules." A few people nearby heard that. You could see it in their faces, confusion, then slow understanding. At that moment, a school bus turned into the entrance of the lane. It stopped when it saw the mess ahead. The driver opened the window and shouted, "Is this road passable or not?" Linda hurried over. "Give us 10 minutes." The driver shook his head. "I can't risk sliding with kids on board." The bus reversed slowly and left. That's when the whispers started. "She said it was private. Why didn't they salt it? Isn't this her board's job?" Linda's face went pale, but she kept her voice sharp. "The HOA plows this road every storm." I nodded. "Yes, you plow the HOA portion. This section?" I tapped my boot against the snow. "You've always asked permission." Her mouth opened, then closed, because she knew it was true. Every winter, the plow company texts me before coming down that strip. They know who owns it. They always did. Except this year. Linda sent me a violation letter in November saying all snow removal would now be managed exclusively by the HOA and that unauthorized equipment use could result in fines. I warned her in writing, "If you take control, you take responsibility." She ignored it. Now here we were. Another car tried to inch forward and got stuck sideways, fully blocking the only narrow path out. Someone cursed loudly. A door slammed. Linda marched back to me. "Clear it. Right now." "Are you giving me permission to operate machinery before 8 a.m. next time?" Her jaw tightened. "That's not what this is about." "It is exactly what this is about." She lowered her voice. "You're embarrassing the board." I looked straight at her. "You tried to embarrass me with police." For a second, her eyes flickered. She didn't expect me to push back this hard. Then she tried a new tone, softer. "Look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot." I didn't answer. She glanced over her shoulder at the trapped cars. "We can revisit the vote. You said I don't get a vote." "You're not a member. I'm the landowner." That hit harder than she expected. Right then, a black SUV with county plates rolled up behind the stuck vehicles. It couldn't get through either. The driver stepped out wearing a thick coat and boots. I recognized him instantly. Linda didn't. He looked at the mess. Why hasn't this access strip been cleared? Linda rushed toward him. Sir, we're handling it. He glanced at me, then back at the snow. This section belongs to Parcel 7B, correct? My name is listed under that parcel. Linda blinked. It's under HOA management. He shook his head. Not according to county records. The air felt heavier. One of the neighbors whispered, Who is that? I answered quietly, without looking away from Linda. Assistant County Surveyor. Her face lost color. He walked over to me and nodded. Morning? Morning. Linda forced a smile. We were just resolving a small dispute. He looked at her calmly. Ma'am, we received a complaint last month regarding interference with easement conditions. Her eyes snapped to mine. Complaint. She thought she was the only one who could file paperwork. I kept my tone even, just making sure property lines stay respected. He nodded, as they should. Linda stepped back slightly. There's no interference. The surveyor pulled out his tablet. We have documented notices sent restricting the landowner's use of his own parcel. Silenced neighbors were openly watching now. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. The surveyor continued. An easement grants access. It does not grant governance. That line hit the lane like a dropped hammer. Linda tried to recover. We were maintaining community standards. He looked at the cars stuck behind him. Standards appear. Compromised. A few neighbors actually laughed under their breath. Her control was slipping, and then she made another mistake. She said, loud enough for everyone to hear, If he won't cooperate, we'll suspend the easement until he does. The surveyor slowly lifted his head. Ma'am, he said carefully, you don't have authority to suspend a recorded easement. Her breathing got shallow. And if the landowner chooses, he added, he may petition to modify or restrict access based on documented hostility. Now every single person on that lane was staring at her. Mark stepped forward. Wait, restrict access? The surveyor didn't answer him. The surveyor didn't answer Mark. He was looking straight at Linda. You understand what that means, right? He asked her calmly. She swallowed. It means he's bluffing. I finally stepped forward. I don't bluff. The wind pushed loose snow across the buried strip behind us. Cars were still stuck. The delivery truck driver had given up and was sitting inside, with his hazard lights blinking. The surveyor tapped his tablet. The easement agreement includes a cooperation clause. Repeated interference can trigger review. If review is approved, access can be legally modified. Mark looked at me. Modified how? I didn't raise my voice. Timed gate, weight limits, maintenance fees, or full suspension until compliance terms are met. The lane went silent. Linda's voice cracked. You wouldn't trap families? I didn't start this, I said quietly. You tried to control land that isn't yours. She looked around for support. No one moved, because now they understood something. This wasn't about a snowblower. This was about power. She pulled her phone out again. I'm calling the HOA attorney. I nodded. Good. She expected me to flinch. I didn't. 10 minutes later, her speakerphone was on. The attorney's voice came through thin and sharp. Linda, I reviewed the file. You cannot enforce quiet hours on a non-member's property. Her face tightened. And you absolutely cannot threaten to suspend an easement you don't own. Neighbors were openly listening now. The attorney continued. If this escalates, the HOA could face liability for harassment and interference. Linda turned the phone away from the crowd. Too late. I spoke calmly. Ask him about the certified letters. She froze. What certified letters? The attorney asked. I answered for her. 3 warnings I sent. Documenting false violation notices, attempted restriction of access for contractors, and improper use of HOA letterhead. There was silence on the line. Then the attorney said something that changed everything. Linda, did you send notices under board authority without full vote documentation? She didn't answer. That was answer enough. The surveyor cleared his throat. We also have a complaint about altered signage placed at the lane entrance. A few heads turned. Last month, Linda had put up a metal sign that read, Private HOA road members only. She forgot one detail. That sign sat fully inside my parcel boundary. I had pictures, dated, time-stamped. The attorney's tone shifted. Linda, remove any unauthorized signage immediately. And resolve this, today. The call ended. She looked smaller now. Not loud, not confident, just cornered. Behind her, a siren echoed faintly in the distance. Not police. Tow trucks. Because once one vehicle blocks the lane long enough, insurance starts calling. Mark stepped forward slowly. Linda, did you tell us you owned this strip? She didn't respond. Another neighbor added, you said he was violating HOA property. Her silence grew heavier than the snow. I let it sit for a moment. Then I said the line I had been holding back all morning. You tried to ban my snowblower at 6 a.m., so I revoked. Cooperation at 8:01. That was it. No yelling. No threats. Just truth. The surveyor looked at me. Would you like to file for formal review? I took a slow breath. Every eye was on me. This was the moment people expect revenge. Gates.chains. Locked access. I shook my head. Not today. Linda blinked. I continued. But starting next season, snow removal on this strip will be managed by me and invoiced proportionally to every household that uses it. Mark nodded slowly. That's fair. A few others agreed quietly. Linda tried one last time. The board has to approve that. I looked at her. The board doesn't own it. She had no response. I walked back to my garage, pulled the snowblower out again, and fired it up. No one complained about the noise this time. I cleared the rest of the strip clean and wide. Took my time. Made sure it was done right. As the snow flew aside, the trapped cars slowly began to move. One by one, they drove past me. Some nodded. Some avoided eye contact. A couple even said thank you. Linda stayed near the mailbox, silent. By noon, the lane looked perfect, clear, safe, passable. The surveyor shook my hand before leaving. You handled that well. I just enforced boundaries, I said. That evening, an email went out to the entire neighborhood. Subject line, emergency board update. Linda had stepped down pending internal review. Funny how that works. The metal HOA sign at the entrance? Gone before sunset. And the quiet hours policy? Rewritten to apply only to shared HOA property. Not private land, not mine. A week later, I received formal confirmation from the county. Easement rights remain active. Control remains with landowner. Clear. Simple.legal. Now every winter I clear that strip before sunrise. Not because they tell me to, but because I choose to. And nobody ever complains about the noise at 6 a.m. anymore, because they learned something that day. You can't trap a man on his own land, but if you try to control it, you might end up trapped instead.